But first, well, there's only one topic of conversation, isn't there? And that is Donald Trump's resounding win. You know the numbers by now. Trump smashed through the so-called blue wall and took home 312 electoral votes, plus a majority of the popular vote Tuesday night. And in doing so, he led a pent-up red wave through Congress, flipping 3 seats to take control of the Senate. And while the votes are still being counted, it looks like he'll probably get the House as well. And he did this by scooping up votes across the nation, across class, ethnic, color, and religious lines. Now, this is a moment of great opportunity for a man who made a lot of mistakes in his first term when it comes to staffing and understanding how the levers of Washington work. Trump now has the opportunity to follow through on his vision, and the world is already getting ready for it. Just one example, in just the last 12 hours, in anticipation of new trade policies, Steve Madden announced that they will slash their China production by as much as 45% in response to the threat of tariffs on imported goods. But I'll tell you what, not everyone is happy about what's going on, and I think I know why. Have a look at this. Here's Jimmy Kimmel having a bit of a breakdown after Trump's win.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for health care, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech.
And you just knew that AOC was going to have something to say.
This is the era that we are poised to enter. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies. Authoritarians and people that he affiliates closely with and strongmen abroad, in regimes like that, it is not uncommon to jail political dissidents or legislative opponents.
Sorry, I'm confused here. Isn't Trump the guy they tried to jail on a bunch of bookkeeping charges that have never been prosecuted before as anything more than parking ticket misdemeanors? Anyway, look in the mirror. I think I know the real reason why the Kimmels and the AOCs and the whole Washington Post editorial board are so upset. It's not because of the plight of migrants or the threat of authoritarianism. No. It's simply about power. Now, remember how much the first Trump administration was treated as an abomination and an aberration. Coming after the Obama years, it was a rebuke to the sort of liberal, urbane, knowledge worker classes who loved things like DEI policies and who thought they had a chance to remake America in their own image. The return of Trump after 4 years of Joe Biden was considered an even greater threat to this project, which is why they threw everything at him. Criminal charges, attacks on his character, accusations of fascism, even an assassination attempt or two. It's because, you know, the very 4 words, "Make America Great Again," trigger these people, these folk who see the greatness of America's past as something to be ashamed of, not to be proud of. This is the fundamental point of Obamaism, and it is what drove Trump to the White House the first time. Remember, here, in this election, what happened? Obama's people encouraged Democratic infighting to push Joe Biden out. They didn't even want Kamala Harris as the nominee, and behind the scenes, they signed up as the saviors of the campaign, only to run an Obama-era playbook that didn't work for anybody who wasn't Barack Obama, and certainly wouldn't work in 2024. Meanwhile, out in the rest of the country, everyone else, they just wanted to be heard on their issues, the issues that mattered to them, particularly the economy and immigration.
Economy. Yes, hoping and praying that something be a change, because everything's so high, can't afford nothing these days.
Border control and the economy.
To try to recover our economy and leadership in this country.
The biggest thing is the economy.
The high taxes, the inflation, cost of everything, cost of living.
This gap here is part of the reason why, despite $1 billion in campaign funds, they couldn't get Kamala Harris over the line. People looked at the prospect of another 4 years of the Biden regime and said no thanks. And across almost every demographic group, Trump increased Republican margins. In deeply Democrat New York, Biden's 2020 lead has been halved. In California, it has been eroded by 12 percentage points. And in Massachusetts and Washington, D.C., think Melbourne and Canberra, Trump gained 8 points and 2 points respectively. He increased the vote with minorities. Gen X came out massively for him. White women, who were supposed to be attracted by the abortion scare campaign, came out and said no. There was barely an area of the country where Kamala Harris improved Democrat margin. In fact, it was pretty much a clean sweep. And you know what? While the economy was important, I don't think it meets the fundamental problem here, which is that the Kamala Harris campaign failed to encounter and deal with the fact that America is a fundamentally optimistic people. There was an American optimism at play here. Harris may have talked all joy and called Trump a fascist, but the Democratic narrative sees America's past as something to be ashamed of, and the future as something to be moderated and regulated and feared. Trump, though, has, for all his flaws, a fundamental pioneer spirit to him, which is why he is attracted to people like Elon Musk, who see the future, again, not as something to be feared, but as something to be embraced. This is why Dream Big Again was one of his big slogans. Now, can Donald Trump usher in a new American century? We'll see. He'll have a lot of enemies in the process. But to be honest, it's a lot better than what the Democrats have on offer, which is 100 years of DEI policies and identity politics.